Hello YouTube and welcome back to W140 Restorations. In this episode we're going to be working on the coils and the spark plugs for Project Iona. She was running rough and I didn't know what was going on. We'd worked on the fuel system before and we changed the radiator and a lot of different things on Iona, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and then it struck me I had not taken a look at the spark plugs and the coils. Iona has 229,000 miles on her now. I've been driving her regularly now for a year since owning her. So I realized that I hadn't looked at the plugs and the coils, so I'm guessing that's the culprit. So she is a 97 post facelift, so she has coil packs on her and electronic ignition and not caps and rotors. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into the top of the engine, take a look at how the coils look, see if they're original, see if they're mismatched, and also take a look at the spark plugs as well to see exactly what shape they're in and replace all those things. So come along and let's see what we can get into for this episode of Project Iona. So Iona is a 1997 W140, and for the post facelift 96 and up, there's a big difference between the 96 and up and the 95 and newer, and that's going to be this part of the head. These behind here are the crank position or the camshaft position sensor. There's two, one on the passenger side bank and one on the driver's side bank, and that's the main difference between the 96 and up, because the spark is electronically controlled. No longer is there a distributor cap and a rotor. I had an S500, and behind the plastic covers there's 4 wires that cross for the sequence of the spark and the firing order. But on these, it all comes from the back side in the upper engine wiring harness. And to get these bolts off, you need it's basically a reverse Torx. It's an E10 size of a socket. And we're going to take all 6 off, and I'll show you what the coil packs look like underneath these plastic vanity covers. One, two, and three. Now, in the V8, there's going to be 4 coil that sit on top of the spark plug. I'm going to pull the cover up and show you what they look like. So looking down in, these are the 5mm hex or Allen that holds the retainers in this retainer clip, and then you'll see that this is a Bosch coil, and that's the part number is 0221504001. I bought 8 new coils and 8 new spark plugs to put in Iona, and from cylinder 1 is a Bosch. This one is aftermarket, so she already has different coils in her. Yeah, this one's aftermarket, and so is this one. That's not a Bosch, so I'm interested to see just what the spark plugs look like, and a little bit of discoloration on this retainer as well. I don't know why. We'll look into that. I would suggest taking the wiring off altogether, and this is the ground strap as well. These can be very persnickety about ground, so make sure that you take the ground wire off as well as all the wiring harness, and lift them up and lay them off to the side, and I'll show you that because the you don't want to mess with the wires. That's one of the reasons I got rid of that SL500 that I had. It was a pre-facelift, and every time you touch the wires they just disintegrated. It was a 94, and it just was not worth saving. So let's go ahead and pull these coils off and then pull the spark plugs out and see exactly what they look like, and we'll start replacing the coils and the plugs inside Iona. And then you don't necessarily have to do it, but one thing that I do recommend, because these are aluminum and these are steel, you're going to get some bimetal corrosion, is to use a dead blow hammer and tap to see if you can break up any of the potential bimetal corrosion between the two. And I doubt anyone put any sort of anti-seize between the two, and I don't want to twist the bolt. Yeah, nice and loose. There it goes. Let's take a look. And not a lot of corrosion on the threads, which is good. These came out relatively easy. And save those and make sure we put them back in. And here's the retainer for the coil. And then pull out wire. And we're going to do the same thing all the way down. Not forgetting the ground. I figure these wires have been in here for 20 plus years, so we want to be very gentle with them and making sure I don't break them or crimp them or do anything with them to harm them. And the ground strap is also 5mm as well. We'll get our wiring harness, gently lay it out of the way. It is not very pliable. Make sure it's fully seated. The last thing you want to do is want to strip one of the heads of these, because if you strip, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And there's the last one, maybe leaking, maybe it'll blow by, I'm not for certain, but when I look at the ones on the cylinder 2 and 3, a lot different than the one on cylinder 4. You can see the one on cylinder 1, relatively clean compared to those. So, all right, retainers and keepers. These should just lift right off, and that's Mercedes coil pack from this era. Again, this one, Bosch stampings and Bosch numbers on them. Would have been OEM from Mercedes. And then whatever this is without any markings or stampings. And a little bit of rust on it too. Never any good. You can see the difference. All right, let's take them all out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 4's got some corrosion on it, so we'll have to take a look, take a close look actually, and see what we got going on. Cylinder 1, not a lot of gunk. A little bit on 2, maybe a little blow by, maybe a loose spark plug, not for certain. Definitely something going on 4. When I ran the codes on Iona, I was having a spark plug fault for plug number 4, and then on the opposite side, second bank, plug number 8. So I'll have to take a look at those plugs and see how they look when we pull them out. And let's do that next. We're gonna do it one at a time. I don't like leaving open cylinders for anything to get in them. We're gonna have to blow these out and clear them out and then pull all the spark plugs out. And that's next. And let's do the same thing on the driver's side. Probably easier to lift it from the back. It's pretty tight. Trying to lift it from the side. Just jam my fingers down in it. There you go. All right. Driver side looks much better than the passenger side. Got a Bosch coil. The part numbers right there. Head looks really clean too. That's nice. Not a lot of debris. Another original coil. If it's original in the car. I can't say that they are. There's obviously somebody been in here, because these two are not. That's a replacement off-brand with no markings and same 4-cylinder. Number 8, not too bad looking. Wire harness looks good. Coils look good. Let's go ahead and get into it and take these off as well. And then we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the coils and the spark plugs when we pull them out and replace them with new Bosch spark plugs. So let's get in that. Oh, they should just pull straight up. Come on, baby. There we go. Not too bad. Yeah, these two are Bosch. An original Mercedes boot on this one. This has a replacement. You can see the Mercedes symbol on this boot. This may be original to the car. This one has Mercedes part number on it, but looks like it's stamped Bo or Boo, not for certain. This one aftermarket, so yeah, with no part numbers on it, and I'm guessing this one is the same way on cylinder number 8, and it's in the worst condition and a little bit rusty with no part numbers and a pretty rough looking boot. Yep, glad we did this. These all need to be replaced. Okay, so I changed my mind and decided to take all the plugs out. When I started taking them out, anybody can take out a spark plug. That's not what's the issue at hand. But I wanted to show you all what I found when doing so. From orientation, this is the front of the car, passenger side, back to the rear of the car. So this is cylinder number 1, 2, 3, 4 on the passenger side, then on the driver's side, 5, 6, 7, 8. Something to notice that popped out to me very, very quickly were the coil and the coil boots. There's a mixed match of different types of coils, but the coil boot, you can see that The boot is split and there's rust on the end of this one. I'm so very glad I started getting into Iona and doing this. No name brand, that's got a marking on it. It's not Mercedes. This one, no name brand, and you can see the ends are different on all of these, as well as the ones that were on, unbelievable, on the driver's side. Cylinder 5, totally different than the other ones. This one's Mercedes original stamped, may have come from Lord knows where, for cylinder 6, 7, 8. The spark plugs are also Mercedes spark plugs. The gap on an M119 for W140 is 0.032, and these plugs look like they've been in there for a while. And something that really jumped out at me are just how bad they look, especially cylinder number 4. I was getting a code error for misfire on cylinder 4 and cylinder 8. I can absolutely see why. I think this one was the loosest. Taking them out, it was barely in there, which it's on me. I haven't changed the plug, so it's the first time around for Iona, but you can see all the oil and all the blow-by for the cylinder, which was coming up and then coming out because the top of the retainer for cylinder number 1 is clean, and cylinder number 4 is pretty, what appears to be just oil and dirt on there, so they're completely discolored. So I'm glad that I did this. I'm glad that I did it now. I didn't want to, you know, kind of piecemeal it together by just buying 1 or 2 coils. Like I said, you can't test them. I'm just going to put these on the shelf and go ahead and put new plugs in. And saying that, there's a fresh new box of parts from FCP Euro. I do buy most of my stuff from them because of lifetime warranty. Even on spark plugs, everything they sell has a lifetime warranty. So I did buy some Bosch Platinums for Iona, as well as some regular OEM copper Bosch plugs as well, to see which ones work better. I've heard and read about the old cap and rotor pre-facelift not liking the Platinums, but the facelift W140 is liking the Platinum, so we'll see. About to find out. I am going to start with the original copper, but what's exciting is the new 8 fresh new boots I need to put together, as well as 8 fresh new coils on here, and what these new Bosch coils look like. The part number on these Bosch coils is 0221 504 001, and here's what they look like out of the packaging. Again, markings on them, and we're going to go ahead and put all 8 of these together and get them back in Iona with the new set of plugs. We got our 8 new coils open. Now to go with our matching boots. These are all the same. Let's go ahead and put these all together. They should snap in. You should hear them snap. Yep, there they go. So we'll get all those put together in the same way. There we go. All right, and get these back in Iona with a new fresh set of plugs. Like I said, I hadn't gone through and done the plugs and the coils yet. She started acting a little wonky on me, so it was time, and I'm glad I did it now instead of being on the road somewhere and she started acting funky going down the interstate. So all right, 8 coils, 8 boots, 8 clicks. Let's go ahead and get our spark plugs, and we'll get it started going in Iona. All right, old and new. So you're like, wait a minute, what's that one doing in the middle? I want to show you all something. A little bit of trick about how to put spark plugs in. Instead of using a socket and dropping the spark plug down in, which I've seen people do, don't do that. And if you use a spark plug socket, sometimes it's hard to get the socket back off of the spark plug because of the rubber grommet inside. If you use a piece of fuel hose or vacuum line, it's easier to slide the spark plug down in the cylinder head and then twist it by hand until you feel it get bite on the threads, and then pull it out. And I'll show you that little trick. So you may be asking, why 9 spark plugs? Well, that's why. But there's the old and the new, and let's go ahead and pop them all in. Okay, as I was saying, make sure after you put your gap to 0.032, make sure they're all gapped correctly, and put a little bit of anti-seize on them. Top tip for putting a piece of vacuum line or small fuel hose on here, because they go in rather easily just by sliding down and then twisting them until you can feel them catch. You can thread them all the way in, just like so, and then put your hose on. Nice and easy, and you don't have to worry about any sort of cross-threading, any sort of issue pulling off your spark plug socket. The reason I don't use a spark plug socket putting them in is because they're very, very hard to pull this back out with your extension on there. That's easier to come off than this coming off with the spark plug. So I don't use those going back on. Just a top tip, use a regular deep well 5/8 and slide that on. You hand tighten it some more. And then for these, I torque mine to 25 Newton meters on my digital torque wrench. So 25, set it to, then 1, all right, and cylinder number 8 is torqued, and I'll go ahead and repeat the same thing for all of the spark plugs. All right, and next we'll go ahead and put in the coil packs. Nothing special here, just making sure they seat on top of the spark plug. That's number 4. All right. Cylinder number 3. Cylinder number 2. And that's cylinder number 1. I'll get the retainers. Tell it was number 4, and put them back the way they came off of here. And these two are almost the same. What I'm finding is you're having to put a lot of pressure on the coil, because the coil itself with the new rubber spark plug boot sits higher than the ones that came off of there. So it's actually having to hold the coil on, which is nice because I know they're making contact with the top of the spark plug. Tighten those by hand. And cylinder 1. And then we'll do 2, 3, and 4. Then we'll do the other side as well. All right. And cylinder number 4. If anyone was wondering, passenger side, front of the car, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the other side, driver's side front is 5, 6, 7, and 8 is closest to the driver. And these are all in. We're gonna take our wiring loom and slowly get each one of these in place before we start clipping them all in. Make sure they all line up. Again, last thing you want to do is damage anything on the wiring harnesses or the looms, because they're darn near impossible to replace. They just aren't that common anymore. All right, 4, 3, 2, and lining up. Number 1. There we go. All right. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Tighten that up with our socket by hand. Have to step back, check the torque spec, and make sure all the wires sit down in here. And then inside this notch on the back of the head. And then there's a plastic cover that goes on the back that it snaps in and down to hold it in place. And there it is. All right, let me go check the torque spec on those and I'll be right back. All right, looks like somewhere around 10 foot-pounds, so we're gonna 1. All right, last of it. Make sure that back cover's on. This piece is in. Double check one more time. Down, down, clip, clipped, clipped, clipped. All right, put that in. There. And then we will do the driver's side. That sits behind. Okay. And crankcase ventilation snuggled in there. Hit that with some shiny maker. All right. I don't think anyone's gonna see back there, but we'll all know it's there. And then we'll do the driver's side. All right, last train to Torquesville. Let's get this one all torqued down. And then we should be ready to put all that air intake back together. And then take a little run. See how she's driving. All right. So how does she drive? Fantastic. How does she run? Like she should. I don't have any low idle issues. You can see here I'm driving after putting her all back together on a beautiful evening in Florida, and no issues with idle, no issues with putting her and giving her some RPMs. She revs up nice and easy, not an issue there. And how does she drive after changing the plugs and the coils? Well, see for yourself. And as I head out, thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate all the support for W140 Restorations and everyone for watching all the Project Iona series. There's a lot more to do on this car. There's some things to do to the suspension. And if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Let me know if you like the new intro and there's other things you want to see done on Project Iona. Thanks everybody, take care, see you on the next video.